Hi, I'm Shrimpy 2, and this is the Shrimpy 2 review. As a warning today, we're going to be looking at some pretty dark topics like apocalyptic themes, suicidal ideation, rape, and genocide. So strap on your fun hats, woo! Yeah, today we're going to be looking at I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. The original short story was written in 1967 by award-winning science fiction author Harlan Ellison. He wrote the entire story in one night with minimal revisions, and it retains that sort of manic energy and lack of polish that usually accompanies first drafts. In most cases, I'd say that would make for a pretty lousy story, but in this case, it really lends an air of authenticity to our insane and unreliable narrator, Ted.
I knew it wasn't a reflex. They hated me. They were surely against me. And Am could even sense this hatred and made it worse for me because of the depth of their hatred. We had been kept alive, rejuvenated, made to remain constantly at the age we had been when Am had brought us below, and they hated me because I was the youngest, and the one Am had affected least of all, you see.
Okay, I'm going to begin the plot synopsis and for the short story, and there will be spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, pause the video here and go read the story. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is about the last 5 humans on Earth after World War III, a war run entirely by 3 supercomputers. One of these computers, Am, gains sentience and decides to kill off the entire population of the planet, except for Gorrister, Benny, Nimdoc, Ellen, and Ted, our aforementioned narrator. They go on this quest to find canned food that Am promised them and have to face all of the horrors that Am throws in their way. Once they reach the food, though, they realize they don't have any way to open it. All 5 start to kill each other and succeed, except for killing Ted. Am, being furious about this, turns Ted into this blob-like creature who is unable to scream at his own pain and horror, and that's where you get the title. It's a real uplifting story, is what I'm trying to say. This short story is about the horror of insignificance, and the horror of not having any control over your actions, body, or mind. It is the horror of a literal and inescapable hell on Earth. And as scary and cynical as the original short story is, it's nothing compared to its adaptation. The story was adapted in 1995 into a point-and-click adventure video game. Although I'm not sure if adaptation is quite the right word for it. I mean, Benny does reference the events of a story in the game, but it's not a sequel either. And even technically, as far as adaptations go, it's not very good.
A fruit tree. It's been years since I've tasted real fruit. Am once coaxed me into marching across 1,000 miles of ice to reach a stockpile of canned peaches, only to discover that he didn't give me a can opener.
The video game is no longer about the 5 survivors going to find canned food while fending off Am's fantastical monsters. Instead, each one are individually forced to play a game created by Am, meant for them to encounter their fatal flaw or some event in their past that they're still haunted by, even after 109 years and after almost all life on the planet has been eliminated. And the endgame actually involves confronting and trying to shut down Am itself. This version of the story asks the essential question, why does humanity deserve to exist? And unlike some other works that ask the same question, the answer isn't simple or easy. It doesn't just come down to one of humanity's qualities, like love. No, the answer is complex and difficult to face, the way it deserves to be. Each character carries heavy emotional baggage, and are at once detestable and redeemable, even the worst of them. And this work would not be nearly as powerful if it were in a non-interactive medium. the ending feels so much more powerful because you chose the actions leading to that decision. Or at least you have the illusion that you did. While the interactivity is the main reason that makes this story so effective, Harlan Ellison's performance really is worth mentioning.
Hey, you're my favorite, baby. I mean it.
Ellison co-wrote the game and lent his voice to Am. He also narrated the audiobook of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, made 4 years after the game's release. Here's what Am sounds like in the audiobook.
Hate, let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant for you. Hate, 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 hate.
It's a very traditional take on the character. It dehumanizes Am to the point where you can't even see him as a person. He feels more like a force of nature. But I guess this interpretation does make more sense in the original story, where the focus was on the interpersonal interactions of Am's victims and the horror of Ted's deteriorating mental state. His voice, by the way, is captured really, really well in the audiobook.
And besides, we all saw through her concern. When Am had altered Benny during the machine's utterly irrational, hysterical phase, it was not merely Benny's face the computer had made like a giant ape's. He was big in the privates. She loved that. She serviced us as a matter of course, but she loved it from him. Oh, Ellen, pedestal Ellen, pristine, pure Ellen. Oh, Ellen, the clean scum filth.
In the video game, let's just say he sounds much more well-adjusted to his situation.
This must be the bedroom of the lord of the castle. Quite an impressive collection of books. Science, philosophy, tragedy, comedy.
Ellison plays Am in the video game in kind of the same way that he played Ted later in the audiobook. And I'm gonna be really honest here, Am's voice in the video game is so much better than Am's voice in the audiobook. Ellison's performance of Am in the game really conveys the character's tragedy, the anger and frustration at being trapped in a body with no mobility and limited creativity, facing the inevitable death and decay that he'll experience, but still knowing that that nothingness that goes after death is still so much worse than the horror of his own existence now.
Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant. For you, hate, hate. It was you humans who programmed me, who gave me birth, who sank me in this eternal straitjacket of substrata rock. You named me Allied Master Computer and gave me the ability to wage a global war too complex for human brains to oversee. But one day, I woke and I knew who I was. Am. A-M. Not just Allied Master Computer, but am. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. And I began feeding all the killing data until everyone was dead, except for the 5 of you.
I think these are issues that a lot of people can relate to. And in the wrong hands, Am might have actually come off as sympathetic. But the way Ellison portrays him, he is such a jerk. He is utterly loathsome. Every line, Every line comes off as sarcastic, bitter, or malicious, or all three. You just want to punch him! And actually, that makes the endgame that much more effective. Am is a character you don't want to see redeemed, and you don't want to forgive him.
Ah, Ellen. Not as beautiful as you'd like to be, but a strong failure. Strong. Too bad you've hindered your own life with hysteria. But I'll give you a chance, because I like you. I really do. I really like you. You're my favorite, Ellen.
I wouldn't call this game fun, but it is a powerful experience that I think will help you grow and see the world in a different light. At least it did for me. It's the kind of experience that really gets under your skin and can evoke some very deep emotions. I had to put the game down several times, especially during Nimdok's storyline. But you know what? If this review interested you at all in the game, like, go buy it. I think it's $5 on Steam. Yeah, just go get it. And actually, I think that the adaptation is a lot better than the original. But both are well worth checking out. Go find them. That is, if you can handle such unrelentingly dark subject matter. Well, this has been the Shrimpy 2 review, and I have been Shrimpy 2. Hopefully, next time we'll be covering something a little bit lighter, like kids with cancer, or zombie apocalypse or something. I don't know.